Hello, in this next video, we're going to see how to create a testlet. A testlet is essentially a grouping of questions that all relate to a common stimulus, such as a graph, a chart, a map, anything of the sort. And so to get started, we're going to go in and hit Add New Problem or Testlet. And then what we're going to do is go down and select the testlet option. When creating a testlet, you can have both multiple choice and free response questions, but before creating the questions, we first have to create our stimulus. We also have to name our testlet and give it a few tags and things of that nature. So we're going to name this testlet number 1, and maybe it's on human cells. So you want to give it something more specific like that, you may. Next, we're going to give it a stimulus. And so this stimulus, again, is a chart, an image. It could be a passage of text or anything like that. Anything you want, you can put in there. And so we're going to use an image. And we're going to provide some instructions. So use the following image to answer the questions that follow. I recommend being more specific with it and saying questions X through X number, so it's clear that this student must answer questions 6 through 10 using this image or graph or chart or passage. And so it is a little tricky though, because previously in Bella we had this ability to copy and paste some instructions that automatically updated. You yourself had to keep a very close eye out for where the questions fall on the test and what the instructions say. So let's just say that we want them to answer questions 6 through 10. And then we're going to go ahead and insert our image. Let's go ahead and click so we can then find our image. There it is. We've been through some of these steps in a previous video. Again, always insert the image as an inline image. It is much easier to kind of edit and add some spaces between. So in this example here, I'm adding some extra space between the instructions and the image itself. And that's it. We then need to add some tags to it though. So we have our stimulus. Now we need to add some tags. It will always default to the native tag because it's a native test, but maybe we want to be more specific and say human cells. Let's go ahead and add that in there. Further, when you add new questions, you cannot add individual tags to the individual questions themselves. Instead, as you add a different question to it, you must add the additional tags to the testlet. You don't have to, but it's good practice so that way the testlet is accurate in its tags that describe what the questions are about that are part of that testlet. So for example, maybe it's comparing human and plant cells specifically. Something like that. And so maybe we'll have a question that just says, analyze what type of cell this is, human, plant cell, protist, etc., etc. And maybe we have a second question that is specifically comparing a human and a plant cell, etc., etc., as we go through and want to add more tags. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it at that, and then we're going to go ahead and save it. You do have these other tags, specifically notes, where you can add specific comments about this testlet as a whole. But again, that is not a necessary field. Only the stimulus, the testlet name, and a tag is required to save your testlet. The moment you hit save, it does put the testlet on your exam. And so here it is. There's our instructions, but there aren't any questions to it. That comes in this second step where we go up to the top of where we have our testlet name, and we're going to see add question. Of course, you can go in and edit the prompts, the testlet content here, as you please, specifically those question numbers as you move and rearrange your exam later. We're going to go ahead and save. And now we're going to go ahead and add a question. And so here again, you can add a free response item. Here you see the stimulus just for your record, so you can take another look at it. If you want to change the type of question, you scroll up to the top and select multiple choice. And so here's our question prompt, etc., etc. Give it some response options. Make sure you select the correct response. Maybe it is C, and then D. And then hit save. And so there's that next question there. The answer with an asterisk is the correct question when you're looking at it from this view. When you're looking at it from the view of the question itself, it's the one that's highlighted. So we'll get out of here and let's add a couple more questions. Let's make this one a free response. Describe the kind of cell we see. And then maybe you want to type in an answer. Again, this answer field is only for your record. Students will never be able to see this. And then we're going to go ahead and save. But as you can tell, it hasn't been asking me for a tag as I create these individual questions. Because again, as we want to add individual tags about the questions, we're going to have to go back to the Testlet up here in this edit button. Real quick below, here's our question. And then we're going to go back up though to add an additional tag. And maybe we want to add that Bloom's verb, identify. There we go. And so you can save that. Clicking outside of the Dropbox, scrolling to the bottom, and saving. And so there it is. Let's do one more question. Let's keep it a free response. And then here's our answer. And we're going to save. And so here's our Testlet. And in this case, I only have 3 questions. I do want it to take the place of question 6. And so I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to change these instructions to just be 6 through 8 because I'm only having 3 questions here. And I'm going to save. And so as you can see, this is now falling in question 5, 6, and 7. And maybe you're saying to yourself, okay, I could either add a new one here, or I could just change these exam instructions again. Let's just do that for the sake of this example and do 5 through 7. And there we go. A couple nifty tricks to a Testlet that are quite useful is, say you want to rearrange the order of the questions as they apply in the Testlet itself. You have these arrows here where clicking this will bring this item down below number 6 that we currently see here. There we go. Now we see it. Maybe you want it to be the last question in this sequence. You can do that too. And if you want to move things back up, of course, just hit the other arrows and you're done. And so there's our Testlet. In order to remove an individual question from your Testlet, you can just hit the trash can and it will remove the problem. It doesn't delete the question from SPORK, it simply removes it from being part of this Testlet. And so now we only have 2 items. Here again, to remind you, you need to go up and adjust these instructions, otherwise that will certainly confuse a handful of students. So we'll just go in, and maybe it's just 5 and 6. Again, to create a new question, you just go in here and hit Add New. If you want to add an existing question that relates to it, you'll go in, and this is the one we just removed. So say this Testlet had 5 questions and we only had 2 currently on our test, you would see 3 total here to be able to add to it. So this is the one we already removed. We're going to go in and we're going to add it back. There it is. And now it should populate right at the bottom there. And then, of course, to edit any of these, you may, of course, do that. In order to move the entire Testlet around, that's going to come in a later video called How to Reorder Your Native Exam. But that's pretty much it. That's how you go about creating a Testlet, adding new questions to it, rearranging them within the Testlet itself, and of course adjusting things as you make changes such as these instructions or additional tags to the Testlet.